Thank you, Emma, for giving me opportunity to interview you for my YouTube channel and podcast.
Sure, if it helps you find a job, I'm more than glad to help.
Yeah. So I thought to tell about you and the work that you are doing and the experiences that you had to my audience.
All right, cool.
So can you please introduce yourself?
Sure, I'm Emma. I'm a science journalist and a podcaster and a podcast producer as well.
So you're from?
I'm from France, but I've lived all around, not all around the world, but I've lived in a few places in the world.
So I can see you're a science journalist and multimedia project manager.
hmm yeah, I actually I'm working in a firm that's called Futura, and I came in working as a multimedia project manager. So I was in charge of uh, both audio and video projects, and by now I'm working only on the audio because it takes up so much time.
So you're a podcaster. What you create?
So podcasts are a very diverse type of media, just like video, just like everything else. It can go from interviews to very immersive formats or something that's a bit more zen, to just meditate or whatsoever. What we do is that we have 5 podcasts. One of them is about entrepreneurship and innovation and so on and so forth, and it's an interview format. We have a science news podcast that deals also with tech news and COVID news because that's the big topic these days. We also have a science history podcast that's very immersive, where we tell the stories of forgotten figures of history. Most of the time, people that have been not completely forgotten, but that are unduly forgotten from history of history, although they've done tremendous work and they have contributed to science in one way or another. We have one about animal intelligence that's called Bête de Science, which is a bit more oriented towards younger people, and I really want kids to learn about like species conservation. Sorry, my English is terrible. Species conservation and just respecting and understanding and discovering their environments, because we really need to imbue them with the spirit of stewardship. That's very important to make sure that we keep taking care of Earth. And there's the last one, which is an astronomy one for people who want to look at the sky every once in a while. There you go.
Awesome. And also you're a freelance writer and science journalist. So what you write?
So I used to write freelance. Now I have a full-time contract, which is a big deal. But before that, I used to work as a freelance, and I used to write about science news mostly. Nowadays, I only write one article every 2 weeks, which is called the Curiosity Cabinet, where I talk about a specific object which is linked to a particular story. For example, the last one that I wrote was about a guy who tried to visually capture sounds so that people could see them. I've written a few ones, one about the plague mask, for example, and was it invented in Middle Ages or not? So I'm a big fan of the history of science and just the way we relate to it and what it tells about us as a human group.
That's great. You started your journey, your work from book selling at Pocket Genies.
Which one was it? Was it the Fnac or was it the Abbey
In
Bookshop?
yeah,
The Abbey Bookshop.
yeah. No, it's book. You as a bookseller at Montreal's Children's Book Fair.
Right. Oh, that was a long time ago. That was an internship. It was just like a 1 week thing. It was awesome. It was really awesome. Yeah, I studied book publishing, and so I had to do this internship, and we just sold kids books, and it was fantastic. I love books in general. They're my best friends. I have books everywhere. They've always been with me. So yeah, I wanted to work with books, and so I did a diploma to go in that direction, and at the end of my diploma I couldn't find a job, so now I'm not working in publishing.
That's great. And you became editorial assistant internship. Uh, you did that for 4 months at Editions Talent Lear.
Yeah, indeed. That was part of my diploma. That was part of the whole process. It was a tough one. Just it was very intense, and we had to mostly proofread books and just overlook the whole editorial process to see how it works. And after that, it was really tough, but I still thought I wanted to work in that field. But yeah, as I said, couldn't find a job after my diploma, so I moved on towards more down to earth jobs to eat.
Any experience that you had that you cannot forget?
When I was in this internship, unfortunately, yes. It's a sad one. The woman, I think it's important to talk about her because we tend to forget that we are not slaves, we are human people. The woman who worked there, who was also my manager, used to work her ass off to just get some, not just recognition, but to just like prove that she could accomplish something. She had earned this job, which is really hard of access to women, and she was really working her ass off there. And she was a tough boss. She really had this high level of high standards, and after my internship was done, I think it was 1 or 3 months later, I received a text message from one of her colleagues saying that she had committed suicide, probably because the pressure was too high. And that's definitely something that sticked with me to this day, just remembering that work and social pressure and professional pressure can kill you.
And you worked as a freelance translator at Panini Books from 2014. Like you worked only 2 months there.
I spoke English from a very young age, so that was one of my ways of subsistence, to translate a few things here and there. Not much to say about that one.
Yeah, and 4 months at bookseller in children's literature in FNAC.
Yeah, it's the FNAC. That's one of the Barnes and Nobles that we have here in France, and it was super, super interesting. I love books, like I said, and it was really fun working there and just having someone come to you all grouchy and being like, I need a book for my kid, but I don't know what to get, and this day is so annoying. And they would leave, we say in France, with la banane, with the big smile that looks like a banana, because you had just taken the time to sit with them and introduce them to books and just share your enthusiasm with them. And it was my joy to just go to work and let people leave the place with a smile.
You're more into books, I think.
I am so into books. It's ridiculous how much into books I am.
And you worked as a receptionist at Phone Rigi from like you worked there for 3 months.
Yeah, so like I said, it was really hard for me to find a job in publishing. The field was really closed up at that time, so I had to go for a job that would pay the bills. And I hated that job so much. I used to work at the office, a banking office, I guess. And it was full of these old men who just felt so, oh my God, it just felt like they were so legitimate there, and they were treating women like shit. One of them asked me if I wanted to go out to have a drink with him. He was my dad's age and he was married, and I hated this job. And actually, it was working in this job right after a breakup, which led me to think, okay, this cannot go on. Maybe my diploma is useless right now, but I can't just let myself live this life. I'm not happy. I'm not feeling fulfilled. And I'm going to have to try and find a way to get to a place where I'm happy and I'm feeling like I'm contributing. And I just let myself be sad for a month because, like I said, I had just come out of a breakup and my heart was broken. And after a month, I said, okay, I'm going to go Rambo style and I'm going to make a plan and I'm going to find a job that's going to make me so happy and it's going to be awesome. And so that's exactly what I did. I made plans and I thought, okay, what do I want? What don't I want? And I made a list of 3 jobs from the most, realistic opportunity to the most ideal opportunity. And I started looking. And as it so happens, I didn't end up with any of these jobs because as I were looking, I remembered a guy that I had met 9 months previously in a bar who had a computer on his lap with a NASA sticker on it. And I didn't know who he was. We were just sitting next to each other having a drink, but not talking. And then I said, why do you have a NASA sticker on your computer? And we started talking, and he told me that he worked in astronomy and he traveled a lot for this job. And so I remembered this dude that I had met in a bar 9 months previous. And I thought, I'm going to send him a message. Who knows? Maybe he's looking for someone. Send him a message like, hi, we met 9 months ago in a bar. You probably don't remember me, but I'm looking for a job and I'm curious and I'm eager to learn. And I would love to be working for you if there's any opportunity that you know of. And within, 30 minutes, I received a reply that said, let me just talk to the boss, but I think you're in. And I said, I'm in what? And he said, you're going to be our social media manager and you're going to come to me to Africa to build a 3D printed telescope. And I said, what? And that's exactly what happened. I was hired as a social media manager, to go to South Africa, to Cape Town, and bring there a 3D printed telescope that was used for outreach, to let kids and people who wanted to, makers, to do astronomy and to show them that you don't have to have tons of money to have some awesome equipment to look at the sky. And I did that for 3 months, and it was the best experience of my life. It was intense. It was awesome. And it proved to me that whenever you feel stuck, if you put enough motivation, if you have talked to people before, just random people on the streets, if you just open yourself to the world, you can unlock just incredible opportunities that you could never have dreamed of before. There's a kid playing like behind you. It's so cute.
Yeah, it's on the street. And is there any particular thing that you learned in this particular job that you got in South Africa?
Yeah, it was the most demanding job I'd ever had, because before, I used to work for people doing, I'm not going to say menial tasks, but it was very like, do this, okay, I do this, and it was very practical. Whereas here, I had to use my brains, I had to challenge my knowledge, I had to learn so much because I'd never worked in 3D printing or in, I never learned how to use an Arduino. I never learned how optics worked, how telescopes worked. So I had to learn a lot, and I had to learn how to discipline myself, which, to be fair, I didn't completely learn how to do. I was young and so excited and maybe a bit immature back then, but I really tried to give my best, and I worked so hard. And I learned that it's not because you're an adult that things get easier or more serious, that there are adults who don't know how to work, that there are adults who try to learn, who try to lie, and who try to get the best end of things without doing a shred of work. And I learned a lot. But mostly I learned how to be proud of the work that I did, which learning to be proud about yourself when you have not learned how to be proud of yourself when you're a kid is a big deal. Like, for the first time, I was like, I think I'm proud of what I've done. Wow, that's intense. That was really intense. And yeah, no, it was definitely the best experience of my life. And it kind of propelled my whole existence onto another plane. It was like, okay, from now on, I'm not going to let my life get boring or get insufficient. I want to contribute. I want to do something that's meaningful. I want to do something that makes me happy. And I'm not going to let myself fall back down to this place where people look down on me, where I feel like I'm just a cog in a machine, and that I'm not saying that any job is uninteresting or unmeaningful. I'm just saying I'm looking for something that makes sense to me, and it can be the most menial task in the world, but as long as it makes sense to me, I'm good, I'm happy.
There's a lot of things that I need to learn from you. And you worked as a project coordinator at Ultrascope Africa. Is that the job that you're talking about?
That's the one, yeah. That's the one. So the firm is called the Open Space Agency for those who want to look it up. They do really great work.
And you worked as a freelance translator for 2 months.
Yeah, it was one of those jobs that I did afterwards because then the Open Space Agency job was a temporary one. It was a mission in South Africa and then it was kind of done. So I had to find another job and I worked as a translator as best as I could, but it didn't pay the bills for sure.
Translator means you translate language.
Yeah, I translate it from English to French most of the time, or from French to English.
Okay. Your base is French.
Yeah, my mother tongue is French, yeah.
Okay. And you worked as community manager and project supervisor at Open Space Agency for 3 months.
Yeah, that was the thing. That was the Ultrascope project.
Nice. And you worked as an English teacher and center manager at Souls 24/7 for 5 months.
Yeah, so I've jumped from an airplane once. I've done some, what's it called? Like a parachute gliding? I don't even know. Well, free fall thingy with the parachute thingy one day. And after I'd done that, I remember the very evening I was walking on the, Jesus, I'm losing my words. Basically, I was trying to put myself in a dangerous situation because I had had such a rush of adrenaline that my body was asking for more. With the Open Space Agency, it was kind of the same thing, which is I went to South Africa. I lived these amazing experiences, met so many people, learned so much about the way the world works in other places. Like I confronted myself with new cultures and new priorities and new ways of thinking and respecting other people and interacting with other people. And when I came back to my parents' house because I couldn't afford an apartment, I was like, no, this ain't gonna cut it. I'm gonna have to find another job that makes me feel just the way South Africa made me feel. And I started looking for a job abroad, and I found this job which was not paid as an English teacher in Malaysia. And so I applied for it and I was accepted and I moved to Malaysia. It was supposed to be for a year. I'm not going to make the whole story. Things happened. It was messy. It was weird. I wouldn't recommend this NGO to anyone. Just saying, just as a parenthesis. But it was instructive. I lived in the jungle for 2 months. I lived in Kuala Lumpur for 1 month and I learned a lot from the people there and I hope I could contribute. I mean, to this day, they are still my family. I called them for Christmas and just to say hi. And I've met so many great people there. And I've learned to live in a very different setting from the one I'm used to. Like I live in France. We can't call life hard here. We have everything we need. Most of us do, at least. We have a roof, we have food, we have, everything. Whereas there, I just slept on the floor and sometimes huge tarantulas would come into my room and snakes and so on. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'm going to confront myself with this side of reality, just a sliver of what people encounter when they live in a lesser level of comfort, knowing that I didn't like for anything. I had a bed, I had food, I had a roof over my head. But it was a start for me to just try and understand what conditions people can live in the world, because I think you can't bring any meaningful contribution to the world if you think that everybody's functioning on the same level as you, with the same level of comfort, with the same system of ideas.
And you worked as again a bookseller in children's literature.
Yeah, so after this job in Malaysia, which kind of went south, I had to come back rather in emergency because everyone was planning for me to stay there over a year, and I had to go after 3 months. And I had to find another job, so I worked at the Abbey Bookshop, which I would recommend anyone who goes to Paris to go to because it's the best bookshop in the world. If you like Harry Potter, this is basically Mr. Ollivander's shop, but in bookshop form. And it was awesome. I learned how to handle a higher level of responsibility because I was trained to be a manager there, although I didn't become one. It was an internship, but I learned how to handle responsibilities and to interact a bit more maturely with the customers and to just like be a professional person.
So what made you to come into this literature and understanding the language and being the reason for the communication system? You're a journalist, you're writing and you're speaking. How this passion developed in you?
The passion of, sorry, speaking English?
Uh, Becoming a journalist.
Oh, journalist. So it came after still a few trials because I went through so many jobs, I barely can count them. But at some point, I was a marketing manager in a firm that was actually a dating website for geeks, which is very specific. And I was bored because there wasn't enough work to do, which I had told my manager several times. And I started just browsing the internet and I found this awesome group of people on Twitter. Don't let anyone say that Twitter is a bad place. Twitter is the place you make it. Just like TikTok, just like Instagram, you know, there's great people on the internet and there's awful people, and just choose your circles just like you do in normal life. And so I met this awesome group of people on Twitter who were just doing outreach and education in science. And I thought, this is great. Like, I love how you learn so many things about the way the world works. And it just blew my mind. You know, it's like fireworks of excitement and curiosity every time I learn a fun fact. And I thought, I think I have been looking for this for years, but I didn't quite know it yet. And when I saw these people doing this, I thought, I think this is what I want to do as a job. I think I want to become someone who just not spreads knowledge, because that sounds very pretentious, but just shares her enthusiasm and curiosity with other people. And so as I applied for a job as a science journalist, I didn't have a background in science. I didn't have a background in journalism. But the person who recruited me, whom I'm so thankful for, thank you, Emmeline, just said, you sound rigorous, you sound enthusiastic, you have a nice, we say a nice quill, like you write well. So we're going to give it a try. And I just fell in love with the job, because it was so many people, you know, say, if I could just go to school as a job and learn new things every day, that would be fantastic. That's exactly what my job consists in. I spend my days writing about new stuff, learning about new stuff, and sharing it with other people. Like, ain't this exciting? This is how the world works. Don't you find this super interesting? And so that's why I'm so passionate and intense about this job. It's so perfect for me.
So how was the beginning days? Because you don't have a journalism experience or you don't have a science background. So it's how you felt. What was your first thought?
Well, it's one thing that I've learned through my professional experience is to be adaptive. You know, I'm very flexible. I can learn easily. I can adapt to different situations. I mean, to some point, we're all human, but I really try and trained myself to work as fast as possible, which at first was tough. I wrote an article within 5 hours, and now I can write 5 articles in a day. But at first it was intense, but I got there. It's like a muscle. You train it, and at some points it becomes easier to flex it. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
So you're a multimedia project manager. So you said you work on audio and video. So what this job, doing this work taught you?
So I used to work as a video manager, and now I work only as an audio manager. But it's interesting to see how, especially storytelling, intervenes in education. Like, you'd think education it's just a matter of delivering facts and people learn them, but storytelling can play such a huge part in it. So it can be used to distort the information or to distort your perception of a piece of information, but it can also be such a great tool to get people to get interested in what's being told and to see the bigger picture. Like, if I tell you that the Big Bang happened 13 billion years ago, I believe, people are going to say, okay, cool, and they're going to forget about it. But if you just place it in a larger context and you tell the story in a very interesting and immersive way, you can get so many more people interested in how the world works and more curious. about how the world works. And that's definitely something that I've learned both in writing, but especially with the video.
You worked in different positions and in different companies. You worked as a receptionist and you worked as a writer. So you worked as a teacher, English teacher. So how these multi-personality, how you managed, how you shifted yourself to one from other?
Well, you need to stay open. You need to listen to what people expect from you. It's so easy once you've had a bit of experience to think that you know exactly what you have to give to other people. Like, don't worry, I got it. I know what I have to give to you. But usually when I go on an interview with an employer, I'm like, what do you need from me? Not only on a professional level, but also on just a basic human level. Like, do you need me to be honest? Do you need me to be serious? Do you need me to be a bit more flexible? What do you need from me? So you need to stay open to what people need from you, because I've never been a leader. I've always said I'm the second in command on the boat. I don't want to be the captain. So from that point on, you have to realize that you are not leading the ship. You are a crew member, and a crew only works well if it works together. So you have to listen to what the captain tells you and to what they need, because they are the only one who knows how to supervise the ship and get it running. You are super important in getting it running. If you're not there, the work does not completely get accomplished. But you need to rely on the person who has the global vision, and to be, humble, and just sometimes just question yourself, like, am I still doing what's being asked of me, or am I thinking that I'm doing exactly what's needed and forgetting to look around me and just check that everything's all right?
How does a bookselling person, you worked as a bookseller, you used to wake up in the morning, go there and listen to the customers about what they need, what kind of books they need. So that experience, how that is helping you in this present project management job?
Yeah, I guess so. I mean, it's also a life experience, in the sense that do not presume that you know everything about people and how they live and how they think. Just listen to them first. Before you say to someone, you're like this, just ask them, what are you? Who are you? How are you? Because we think way too often that we have people figured out when we don't. Sometimes I'll hear somebody judge another person in front of us that they don't know from, that they've never met before, but they're going to be like, oh, they do this, so it means they're that. And it's like, you don't know. They could, I don't know, like if the person acts in a mean way, like, oh, they're a dick. And it's like, you don't know. Maybe they've been left this morning by the person they loved. Maybe a loved one has been killed. Maybe they are trying to find a job, but they have been striving for months and they can't accomplish what they want. So just don't try and put judgments on people before you've listened to what they have to say about themselves.
Understanding science history, knowing the historical things behind the physics and how things how things are connected, how things work. So understanding this, how this knowledge and this complete information helped you in becoming a great human being.
A great human being. I'm a decent human being. There are so many things that I like in science history. What I like most is that curiosity connects us as a human society across the ages. Like, you can imagine a guy from the Paleolithic just being curious about what's going on around him. You can imagine someone from the 19th century trying to figure out celestial mechanics. And it's something that links us through the ages. We've always been curious. We've not always been tolerant. We've not always been loving. We've not always been peaceful, but we've always been curious. And that I love. And I like the stories that science history has to tell about us. I've never been a fan of history the way it's been told to us in school in France. It's like, you learn this date, this man's name and what he's done politically. And it's like, that feels very dry. And I need to learn things in a way that makes me connect with humans in general. I'm a very asocial person. I hate being in a crowd, but I feel a need for connection that's very strong. And I get that through the science, the history of science, like just following the story of someone who's trying to understand and figure out their world and bring something new to their society. I think that's just fascinating. It's inspiring.
What are those qualities that are driving you, that are making you get success, that are making you move forward, and that are making you to make things possible?
Well, sounds like a job interview. Like, what are your main qualities? I don't know. It's hard to be humble when talking about your own qualities, but I'd say I'm trying to not be judgmental. This is the biggest thing for me. It's like, try and not be judgmental. I'm not going to say that I succeed every time, but I'm really trying. Try to be well-meaning. We say bienveillant in French. It's really like, try and be just kind. Be fucking kind. Stop being aggressive to each other. Stop being, wary of each other. Just be kind, and good things are going to come to you. It's just as easy as that. And if good things don't come to you, at least you'll have the peace of mind to know that you've been kind to other people, and that's enough. That's just enough. And be curious. I would say these are the three most important things for me. Don't be judgmental, be kind, be curious.
So I can see from understanding all your job roles, you are very good in communicating with the world through without showing your physical appearance, which means writing. You don't show yourself, but still you are able to connect with the story that you're telling or the content that you're putting. And I can see you are communicating well even with vocally. So these two different skills, how you developed this, and your job roles made you to become great, or the task that you got made you you know uh, enhance your skills?
So yeah, like I said, I'm a very unsocial person, asocial. I've always been sickly shy. It's very hard for me to communicate with human beings in general because I feel very self-conscious, like many of us. But it was to a point that life was hard for me as a kid, and one of the things that helped me most was studying drama. I studied drama for 13 years, and that definitely got me out of my shell because I learned how to perform on a stage, and I learned that you don't have to present yourself raw to the world, like just this little being who's super shy and who's like, hi, I'm awkward. You can just dress that up. You can still be sincere, but you can learn ways to be more forward with the world, to be more at ease and yet be yourself. So I've learned how to look people in the eye, how to not ask myself all the time, what are people thinking about me? I don't know, maybe they think I'm a piece of shit. I'm still working with my hands as I'm talking because I'm still shy, but definitely drama has helped me a ton. Then when I was in university, I started going to Paris, which is a big city, and I thought I'm gonna try and have some interactions with strangers. And so I decided to start talking to random strangers on the street. As soon as I would be sitting on the bench next to someone who would be like, hi, how's your day? What do you do for a living? Do you have a story to tell? And that was definitely an exercise because it was not my style. I was just forcing myself to be outgoing and to just try and give the world a chance and try to give myself a chance in this world. And that definitely helped me get out of my shell a bit more. And I'd say I've chosen jobs that helped me develop that skill as well. When I was younger, I've worked for Lush, which is this firm that does organic soaps and whatnot. And their philosophy is like they have these very outgoing salespeople who are going to be like, hi, how are you going today? What's up with you? You look fantastic. And so I had to force myself to be a bit more outgoing in that way when I was in this job, and that definitely helped me because I saw that when I was outgoing, when I was positive, and when I was communicating my good humor, I was not hurting people. I was actually sometimes benefiting them because they felt better about themselves. And I learned that you are not a nuisance in this world by being yourself. The worst thing you're going to do is leave people indifferent, but you're not going to hurt them by just being yourself if you're just well-meaning and kind.
You worked in different countries. You saw multicultural cultures, and you communicated with completely different mindset people. So, how was that experience, and how you are able to put yourself out, and how you are able to, take the opposite philosophies?
It was very humbling. From South Africa, I learned how to just be. I've always been a big defender of equality and the fact that it's not because you have a different colored skin that you are a lesser human or a different human. We're all just basically humans with the same rights, and we have the same right to dignity. And so I've always been a big defendant of that. And I remember when I went to South Africa, people told me you shouldn't go to these districts because, it's kind of unsafe for white people and you're going to get mugged and whatnot. And obviously, these are the first districts that I went to because I'm a very stubborn person. And I wanted to prove to people that the view that we have of the world as a dangerous place outside of our own country, it's completely unjustified, and we should just be able to connect with anyone anywhere. So I've learned how to be outgoing in these places and just go towards people and interact with them as I would with anyone. So that I could do in South Africa. In Malaysia, it was very different. Because being white is a whole big deal over there. Because being tall is a whole big deal over there. I'm more than 6 foot tall, and over there people are very small, which is very funny because half of the people there were like half my size, and I had to learn that being outgoing is a thing, but when you're in a culture who's very shy and you are physically imposing, you have to be a bit more subdued and you have to take a step back and be a bit more humble so as not to disturb other people. One of the reasons that thing went sour when I was in Malaysia was because I was too outgoing and people saw me not as a threat, but as someone who tried to step over other people. I was just being my, old happy self, but they thought she's taking too much space, so she's not respecting other people. And that was a big lesson for me. It was very strange because obviously that's not the way we learn how to function in our society. So I had to adapt to this society and take a step back, be a bit more discreet, take up less space, be less emotional, say no a bit less, because you don't usually say no in Asian countries. You can't say no in China. I think in India it's not very polite to say no to someone. So it's incredible because your brain has to switch to a whole different way of thinking, because you learn how to respect people in your own society, and then you move on to the next society and you're like, I know how to respect people. It's like, oh shit, no, I don't know. Actually, there are different ways to respect people. And that's very strange because you'd think, we're all human beings. So the rules for being respectful to each other should be the same. Dignity should mean the same thing to everyone, but it doesn't. So learning that was very humbling, sometimes hard because I was trying to figure myself out at the same time. But it brought me a lot. It taught me that we don't see the world the same way, and we have to be very mindful of what people think and how people feel.
You're a science journalist, so how this science subject is helping the mankind, the human?
Oh, in so many ways. I mean, COVID is huge proof of it. With vaccines, we've been able to reduce the number of deaths drastically, and science has helped us live in healthier lives in more comfortable places with less risk of being submerged by the forces of nature. Science is huge, not only in the way that it brings us comfort and security, but also in the way that it brings us knowledge of our world. And I think, I'm not going to say that you have to know how the world works to appreciate it, but some people will take sorry, will use ignorance to their benefit by spreading, I don't know what kind of ideology. You know, some people will, I mean, they still do try and sell their own products because they sell it as something that's magical, that's going to save you or whatever. And I'm not going to say that science is the only godly thing in this world and we should only abide by science, but I think that it teaches us how to think in a critical way, how to question what people tell us, and to make up a mind of our own so as not to be manipulated or led to think in a hateful or in a just an erroneous way.
So what that thing that surprises you in science?
So many. What are the things that surprise me in science? I mean, the world is fantastic. The world is amazing. Oh my God, there are so many I can't even tell you. I mean, just look at, I don't know, the song of a bird is fascinating. Like, they sing such intricate melodies that we have to slow down their song to hear the different modulations that happen within the space of a millisecond. Just look at photosynthesis. Plants eat up sunlight to produce more plants. It's crazy how the world works. I mean, Richard Feynman, who's a scientist whom I appreciate very much, and I quote him a lot, was told one day by one of his friends, like, you can't appreciate the poetry, the lyricism of a flower because you're a scientist and you're going to think, oh, this is just a flower and it grows thusly and that way. And Richard Feynman said, no, I disagree with you. I can appreciate the poetry of a flower even more because I know that it's made of this intricate lattices of atoms and molecules, and it adopts such colors so as to attract such animals. And I agree with him. Science is not a dry way to look at the world. It's just a way to marvel even more at its complexity and its beauty and the fucking miracle that the world is.
So understanding from the root, science is something that is educating the world and telling how things are being grown and how the world has created. So you are into that subject, which is very important. Uh, Everything is dependent on this. Every industry in the world is dependent on science. What you say, what you tell to the world, that is based on that we create. We as a technologist, we put data centers there. Based on the understanding the environment, climate, everything. So you are into this subject and you are working on this. You are interacting, and at the same time you are uh, you know telling something to the society. So as a human being, you as a human being, have you ever thought that who is the creator of everything that is created here?
Sure. Yeah, of course. I'm a very spiritual person. I don't have a religion, but I believe, and that's my belief. I'm not, that's usually what I tell people. They're like, but does it mean? And I'm like, this is my belief. This is the way I want to see the world. I'm not saying this is the way the world works. I'm saying this is the way I want to put a meaning on the world. I imagine a greater force that doesn't take a particular shape, but just something that unites us. I feel very connected, like I said, to human people, but I to people, human people, animal people, but I also feel very connected to nature. And I don't know, when you're this overwhelmed with the beauty of the world, with how fantastic the world is, you cannot help but feel a spiritual connection to it. And that's very paradoxical because science tells us that the world is just a series of processes. And I'm not going to say that it dismisses the existence of God, but that's definitely not its most important priority. And yet, I feel even more spiritually connected to this world because I understand it. I understand it thanks to science.
So in science, you see the things are interconnected. And also, you came from France and you're living in South Africa, and you was also in Paris. you understand the connectivity between human beings. You understand the communication system, how people can communicate, how they wish each other, how they uh, tell things or convey their messages. You understand the interaction between human beings, and you also in the science you understand the interaction between species and how things are interconnected. So uh, can that experience you relate with present job, and in order to make, and also the spiritual person in you help you in making things possible, or the way you are living?
I'm not sure I understand your question. I'm sorry.
uh, you relate all these things because you
Mhm.
have a lot of things in your experience. You
Mhm.
worked in different places.
Yeah.
You understood the culture, and you are into science. You understand the interconnection between things in the nature, like you mentioned photosynthesis. uh, One thing is connected with other, so
Mhm.
this and communicating and the communication system, because you're very curious in talking with new people, and knowing their stories, and also through the in the podcast that you're working, you see a lot of content being created, stories being created. So can I say everything is interconnected, and that's why the reason the openness that you have is making you to learn everything?
If I understand your question properly, wait, boom, 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 boom. I'm not sure I understand it. I'm sorry. Do you mean that does my experience influence my job?
The common thing in everything that you have experienced, the
Yeah.
complete package, the as a human being, as a, in your work experience, and in your present job, the communication, I'm talking about the communication between things, it can be anything. You didn't got my point.
I don't get the question. Like what's the question exactly?
Question
Sorry.
means you are how you know being open, you're
Hmm.
open to learn new things, you're interacting with new people, the communication, that the
Hmm.
science, if I ask you to relate the science with the history, the science history, the interconnection between things, and the interconnection between human beings, the communication system. So both you have, both information you have in your mind. So how you are able to relate, and how you are able to do your job better?
All right. I think that all the things that I've learned and the interconnectedness that I can feel within things just help me work first in a more joyful way. Because when you feel animated by this sense of purpose and interconnectedness, it definitely makes you feel happier, and it makes you work more readily towards something that's meaningful. Because when you feel the world filled with so much, I'm not going to say meaning, but just like connectedness, you just want to be a part of it. Um, does that answer your question? Cool.
So what do you like most in yourself?
Oh my God, that's a tough question. Ooh, that's a tough question. Uh, I don't like giving myself compliments. I'd say that I'm trying to be kind. I'm not going to pretend, again, I'm not going to pretend that I'm kind all the time, but I'm trying as hard as I can to be kind. And I am proud of myself for doing this because it's tough. People say being kind is being weak. Oh, it so isn't. It's hard to be kind in this world. So yeah, I'd say this is the one thing.
So is there anything that you want to tell to the people who are watching and listening to our conversation from anywhere on this planet?
You're a fantastic person and you deserve to find a fine job. And thank you so much for giving me the opportunity to exchange with you because it was awesome.
So it's my pleasure you accepted to be on my show, and you accepted me to ask some questions, and thank you very much for allowing me to know about you and tell about you to my audience.
Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah. Can I put this video on my YouTube channel with your permission?
Sure.
And also, can I put this video on an audio clip on my podcast, website, internet, social media, everywhere with your permission?
Yeah.
Thank you, Anna. And have you seen any videos? You are a science journalist, you are a writer, you worked as a teacher, you are into a completely different jobs, you learned a lot, you have huge experience, work experience. So as a person, as an observer, what do you say about my work? Have you seen any videos of mine on YouTube?
I'm gonna go and have a look, and I'm gonna tell you.
Okay. So I did masters in software engineering, and I did bachelor's in computer science and engineering.
All right.
So I took interviews of different country people who are into different professions, uh, uh, who has that completely different backgrounds for journalists, like doctors, scientists, who did PhD, who are police officers, army officers, authors, uh,
People
cloud
from Netflix, I saw.
engineers.
Yeah.
So
Cool.
I talk like this. I just put in my channel like great professionals. I feel something from great people like you, from the experiences that you had. If I put in my medium, if somebody from anywhere on this planet, if they find some point and if they improve themselves, if they develop their skills, or if they find solution from your experience, that will be a big thing for me. And also as a human being, you are contributing something to somebody's growth.
Thank you for the work that you do.
So any last final words that you want to tell?
Be kind. Be as kind as you can. Be happy. Be curious. That's all there is.
Awesome, Emma. You are inspiration for a lot of people. Keep going, keep doing what you love, and keep making great things, and be the reason for a lot of people's smile.
You too. Keep inspiring people. We can win. Kindness win.
Good.
Take care.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.